Understood little about Indochina. Rarely knew anyone actually involved in the fighting.
Well, I started work on this more than 10 years ago, and I thought back then that the Vietnam War was central to understanding who we are now. I guess the most important thing is for Americans, I think this is the biggest thing in American history since the Second World War. And in that half century, we've seen played out a lot of the seeds of disunion that were first planted during the Vietnam War. So it raises questions about, fake news. It raises questions about mass demonstrations, about stolen documents, about reaching out to a foreign power during a political campaign, to White House in disarray, obsessed with leaks. But I also think that Vietnam is unfinished history for most Americans, and there's been a lot of new scholarship and a lot of new perspectives, and we've opened up relations with Vietnam, which permits us to go and ask the North Vietnamese soldiers what it was like, what happened to them, and no one's actually gone and done that. When Americans talk about Vietnam, it's just about themselves, and so we're looking, my co-director Lynn Novick and I, we're looking for kind of an integrated portrait of what happened in this most decisive and important of moments in American history.
We need guidance this morning, sir. Guidance? Is that all you want? Yes, sir. No quotation? That's no attribution, no connection? Yes, sir. Give it absolutely none. Absolutely. Your press is lying like drunken sailors every day.
We wanted to understand it on a very gut human level that would help people. In our country, people don't talk about it who went there. And one of the great feedbacks I've had is they're coming up and saying a variation of my dad, my brother, my grandpa, my father-in-law, my uncle. They never talked about it, and we watched together, and now they're speaking. So there was an opportunity, if you can tell so-called ordinary people's stories, that some healing could take place, some sort of reconciliation of the conflicting aspects of the Vietnam War that still confound us, not only politically and socially, but I think also psychologically.
The demonstrators resisted when police attempted to arrest a young man who tried to rip down an American flag.
One North Vietnamese soldier told us afterwards that he had always thought that the demonstrations in the United States against the war were the sign of our weakness. And he said after watching the documentary, he said, I realized that was the sign of your strength, that I wasn't able to speak out at that time. And, if we have a North Vietnamese soldier saying that, and we have also Americans coming and saying, I never knew, I had no idea.
Tôi đã chứng kiến cái đó thì tôi nghĩ rằng người Mỹ cũng như người Việt của chúng tôi thôi, cũng có cái tình thương bao la như thế.
Vietnam was the first war we lost, and I think Americans are still trying to figure out what cubbyhole to put that in, how to understand that loss, and that will be an ongoing conversation, I think, for an awfully long time, even after, unfortunately, those veterans have passed away. It's still a source of great contention and great discussion, and I hope that we can transform some of that into some peace, some reconciliation, and some really significant understanding, and I hope in some way the film that Lynn and I made adds to that.